So the reverse Nordic is an advanced leg body weight strength exercise that is going to primarily target this muscle on the front of the quad here. Now the reverse Nordic is quite an aggressive lengthener and strengthener of this front part of the quad, which is often neglected through squats alone. So this is a great option for any athletes that are involved in kicking or indeed running, or anyone rehabbing a knee or quad injury. Now this is quite advanced, so I'm going to show you a few ways to get into and out of this movement. The first thing to note is that if you struggle with a couch stretch, which I've done a video on previously, then you're definitely going to struggle with this movement. So if you can't get your knee flush to a wall in the couch stretch without arching your back excessively, this movement's probably going to be something you have to ease your way into rather than being able to do in your first session. You're also going to need to be comfortable with the end shape of a reverse Nordic, which means you're going to have to be comfortable having your back on the floor while sitting on your heels. Now, if neither of these shapes are easy for you, then I'm going to show you a couple of ways that you can ease into this movement, or at least a variation of this movement, before we start tackling the reverse Nordic itself. So the reverse Nordic starts in a tall kneeling position. If you're tight along the front of your shin, so your anterior tibialis, then even the start position is going to be pretty tricky for you. Now there's a couple of ways of going about this. The first way is simply to perform the reverse Nordic as a partial range of motion. So for example, squeezing the bum tight, pulling through the front of the quad, and just easing your way into a partial range of motion. So what I'm doing here as I lean back is I'm pulling through the front here to then bring me back to the starting position. The bringing yourself back up is actually the easier bit. It's having the strength to be able to control and lock in everything at the front that is the difficult bit. So your options are either A, to gradually build up this range of motion over time. So for example, week 1 you might be here, week 2 or 3 you might be able to get a bit lower. Or you've got the option of controlling the eccentric or the lowering phase for as long as you can. You might have a friend or a buddy behind you, or indeed if you're doing this by yourself, another way you could do this is having a band attached around you that could be looped around something like a squat rack, so that as you come further down, you're actually being pulled back up. So to demonstrate the full variation of this movement, I'm starting up tall, arms crossed, because that's going to make it easier to begin with. Glutes squeezed tight, getting ready to pull through the front of my knees, and all I'm going to do is control this fall. And as I'm falling, the tension here is building and building, and then I'm going to pull up tall. Now what you'll also need, you'll notice that wasn't the full variation of the movement, you'll probably also need something that's soft underneath you, because otherwise this isn't going to feel too pleasant. I've just made that mistake in filming this video, so now I'm going to show you the full variation with knees supported. So I'm pulling through the front of my quads, squeezing my glutes tight. As I fall, you'll notice there's a straight line between my knee and my shoulder. So you'll notice this is quite an advanced exercise. You've seen even there that I've got to the floor and I've not quite coordinated the exercise well enough. So this is going to be difficult, especially if this is the first time that you've played about with the reverse Nordic. Great exercise for length and strength through the front of the quad. And it's also great because by building that strength in that end ranges of motion of hip flexion, i.e. the part where you've got your back lying against the ground with your knees fully extended, is going to do wonders for lengthening and strengthening the front of that quad. Hope you found this useful.